This is a level 2 DS set that talks about the state assembly elections which were held in 3 states, Uttaranchal, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. There were 4 parties, BPP, BMP, IPP and HAL. There are 2 tables that have been given. Table 1 is the pre-poll projection. Table 2 is the actual poll results. So A, B, C, D are nothing but disguised names of BPP, BMP, IPP and HAL in any particular order. Another important thing is that when the actual results of each party were compared with the projected one, it was observed that in at least one state, each party won the same number of seats as projected earlier, and no other party contested the elections. Let us now move on to the first question, which states, what can be said regarding the 2 statements? HAL won 60 seats in Uttaranchal, and second statement, IPP won 25 in Chhattisgarh. Now, based upon the info given in the question, let us first make a table of our own. Now, we can say that if the projection were accurate in a particular state, then what could ABCD actually denote? So, say correct projection in state, and this could be the parties BPP, BMP, IPP and HAL. So, what I get here is, so correct projection could either be in Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand or Uttaranchal. Now, if the correct projection is in Chhattisgarh, so that means A would get 65 seats, so A has to be BMP. B would get 60, B has to be BPP. Similarly, C would get 25, C has to be IPP, and D has to be HAL. Correct was in Jharkhand, then A would get 25, so BPP could be either of A or B. Similarly for BMP, A or B, whereas IPP has to be D and HAL has to be C. For Uttaranchal also something similar, BPP could be A or D, BMP has to be B, and IPP could be A or D, whereas HAL has to be C. So what we see is that A could be BPP, BMP or IPP. B could be BPP or BMP. C, IPP or HAL, and D could be one of the 3 BPP, IPP or HAL. Let us now look at the question again. Statement 1 is HAL won 60 seats in Uttaranchal. If HAL won 60 seats in Uttaranchal, then that would mean that D has to be HAL or A has to be HAL. So one of A or D is HAL. Now if one of A or D is HAL, then C has to be IPP because C is either IPP or HAL. So what it means that if statement 1 is true, then statement 2 has to be true, because if C is IPP, it automatically means C won 25 seats in Chhattisgarh, which is what statement 2 is saying. So that means option A here is correct. If statement 1 is true, then statement 2 is necessarily true. Moving on to the second question, it states, what can be said regarding 2 statements? BPP won 60 in Uttaranchal and BMP won 65 in Chhattisgarh. Let us look at statement 2 first. BMP won 65 in Chhattisgarh. If BMP has won 65 in Chhattisgarh, so let us look at the table of Chhattisgarh. So that would mean that A stands for BMP. If that is what this is saying, so if A stands for BMP, now B, based upon what we had done, is either BMP or BPP. So that means B has to stand for BPP. Thus, if statement 2 is correct, then statement 1 would surely be incorrect. Statement 1 is BPP won 60 seats in Uttaranchal, but based upon statement 2, B is BPP and in Uttaranchal they win 75 seats. Hence, it is incorrect. That means if statement 2 is true, then statement 1 is incorrect. Hence, the answer to this question would be option B. Let us now look at the third question. It states, what can be said regarding the following statements? The party disguised as A won exactly the same number of seats as projected in only one state. Now, if A is BPP, then commonality is in 2 states, Jharkhand and Uttaranchal. If A is BMP, then commonality is in two states, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. If A is IPP, commonality is only in Uttaranchal, and if A is HAL, then we see there is no commonality. So A has to be IPP. Similarly, the statement 2 is the party disguised as D won exactly same number of seats as projected in two states. Now, if D is BPP, commonality only for Uttaranchal. If D is BMP, then commonality is for no state. If B is IPP, commonality is for Jharkhand and Uttaranchal, that's two states. If B is HAL, then commonality is only for one state, Chhattisgarh. So D also can only be IPP. So at most one of these two statements could be correct. Hence the answer to this question is at most one of the statements is true. Option C. The fourth question is, if IPP won a total of 150 seats in these three states and BMP won the highest number of total seats in the three states, then which of the following is correct? Now, if IPP won 150 seats, then we see that A, the party A, wins 150 seats, and so does the party B. So A is either IPP or B is IPP or D is IPP. Now C could have either been IPP or HAL based upon the table we drew in the first question. So C has to be HAL. Also, what is being given in the question is that Bharat Mata Party won the highest number of total seats in the three states. We see that B has won 160 seats, which is the highest the highest number of total seats in three states. So B has to be BMP, which means A is either IPP or BPP, and D is either IPP or BPP. Now, if we look at option A here, it says Bharat Mata Party won highest number of seats in Chhattisgarh State Assembly. We see Bharat Mata Party is B, and in Chhattisgarh it won 60, which is not the highest, 65. A is incorrect. In each of the three state assemblies, BMP won more than double the seats won by HAL. We see that in Jharkhand, BMP won 25, HAL 70, hence that is incorrect. Third statement, HAL won the lowest number of seats in Chhattisgarh. HAL won 25 in Chhattisgarh, which is the lowest, which is true. So C is true. BPP won the second lowest number of seats in Jharkhand State Assembly. Now, BPP could either be A or it could be D. So whether it won the second number of lowest number of seats in the Jharkhand State Assembly is true or not, we do not know. Hence the answer to this question is the C has to be correct.